Alright, this lesson is for drawing the walking pose. The walking pose croquis is a very popular croquis because obviously later on sometime you're going to want to see your garments coming down the runway, and it also gives you an idea of what your garment's going to look like as it's moving. Let's take a look at this example here. So the girl in the middle, she's wearing a red swimsuit top and her shoulders are parallel with the ground and her swimsuit is straight across. But as she puts her weight to her right leg, her shoulders are popping to the left side and her swimsuit top is following the same direction. And then of course when we go to the opposite side, the opposite is happening. Now let's take a look and see what's going on with her hips. So you can see her swimsuit bottom in yellow. For the center picture, everything is straight across. So the tops of her swimsuit bottom is straight across as well as down at the bottom of her swimsuit. But as she puts her weight on her right foot, you can see it's tilting. So it's popping to her right side and the bottom of the swimsuit was following that. And then for the opposite leg, when she puts her weight on her left foot, you can see the hips are popping to the left side. The bottom of the swimsuit is doing the same thing. The third thing we want to analyze here is what's going on with center front. Now the girl in the middle, she's perfectly squared up with the ground, so her center front is just going to be straight up and straight down. But with her weight onto her right foot, you can see it's crunching at her waist on the right, and the bottom of the swimsuit, the center front is drifting off to the right. And then you can see the same thing happening when she puts her weight onto her left foot. Taking a look at this model here, she's walking along with a stable guideline, and you can see that her shoulders and her hips are doing the opposite movements. And then also you can follow the center front is drifting from side to side. Take a look at this model here, and she has like a string with a silver heart pendant attached to it, and you can see it swinging back and forth. And this is exactly what's happening with your center front, and it's following the same side of the hip that's popping. If you were drawing something like a dress, you could see here that the hem of the dress would pop to the same side that your hips are popping to. The tools that you'll be needing for doing this assignment is going to be analyzing your walking pose handout, as well as a 2H pencil and a number 2 pencil, your large plastic eraser, red and blue color pencils, your clear ruler, and a pencil sharpener. So let's just take a quick look at basically what's going on with these two girls. So both of them are walking towards the camera. Their bodies are squared up with the camera. Their faces are pretty much squared up with the camera. And we have this girl, she's putting her weight down here on her right foot. And then this is the opposite. So this girl has her weight here on her left foot. Taking our number 2 pencil, let's go ahead and label this. So this is her left side, and this is her right side. And then do the same thing here. That's her left and her right. For analyzing both of these girls, let's start by calling her A. And then this model here, we'll call her B. And then very lightly, I want you to come in and find her throat. So basically, you can see where her 2 collarbones are and where they stop. And the center of her neck is aiming down into here. This would be where, what we'll call her throat, right there. And let's do the same thing on girl B. So collarbone, center of the throat, right there. Now come down all the way to their feet. And notice the foot that's in front. We want to find the basics of the middle of this foot. So somewhere where you think that's dead center, middle of the foot. And then do the same thing here as well. Now using your clear ruler, what we'll do with girl number A is we're going to lightly connect from her throat to the center of the foot here in the front. And do the same thing for girl B. The next thing we want to determine is the center front. Now, because girl A has a one-piece swimsuit on, let's come over here to B where we can see her belly button. So go ahead and just lightly draw in what would be her belly button. And also notice that her belly button is here off center towards her right side. Then come down in here and let's get the bottom of the swimsuit, as well as starting to draw the cut of the swimsuit. And then here we'll notice that the center of the bottom of the swimsuit is right here, off center to her left side. So again, the belly button was here on the right side, and then the center front now comes off center to the left side. Let's go ahead and lightly connect these with a ruler. Now for girl A, she's wearing a one-piece swimsuit, but if you look at the design here, so it's like this circle design and it turns into a smaller circle. And then if you find the center of that, you'll notice that her belly button would be here off center to her left side. So go ahead and guess where you think her belly button would be, making sure you're off center to the left. Then let's come down here and we'll find the bottom of the swimsuit as well as the cut of her swimsuit. So then we can find the center of the bottom of the swimsuit here. And noticing now on this girl, A, that the center of the bottom of the swimsuit is off to her right side. And let's connect these with a straight line. So you should be noticing on yours that girl A, her belly button is on her left side, the bottom of her swimsuit is here on the right side, and girl B is doing the opposite. Now what I want to do is I want to find center front up top here. Basically, it's going to be from the belly button heading back up towards her throat. Now, if we take a look back here at our static pose croquis, remember how we had the belly button is here at the top of the hip bones, and then there's the bottom of the rib cage, and in between those was her natural waist, and we had the center front stopping at the rib cage and then starting again at the top of hip bones. The reason we were doing that is because once your model starts to turn and bend and twist, then the area between the belly button and connecting back to the center front for the bodice area is going to be a little bit of a curve inside of there. So you wouldn't necessarily connect a straight line all the way down to the belly button. Realistically, what it is it's somewhere here in the middle of the waist. But for analyzing these two walking poses, to keep things simple, we're just going to connect straight from the throat to the belly button, here and here, and then from the belly button down to the bottom of the swimsuit. So let's just double check. Here's model A, and her center front is going from her throat to the belly button, here off to the left side, and then it's going to continue from the belly button to the center at the bottom of her swimsuit, off to her right side. And now, looking at model B, the center front is going from her throat to her belly button, here off to the right side, and then it's going to go from the belly button to the center of the bottom of the swimsuit, off to her left side. Now take out your blue color pencil, and for model A, let's go ahead and go from the belly button down to the center of her swimsuit, and then do the same thing over here for model B. And then with our red color pencil, I want to get the upper part of our center front. but I want to make sure you don't accidentally confuse it with the plumb line. So be really careful that you're going from the throat and aiming back towards her belly button. Now it should be even easier for you to see that as she's walking, the center front is moving off of the plumb lines. If you recall, we had analyzed the standing pose and we had the plumb line going straight down to where her foot is here. But the bottom of the swimsuit went off to the right side and her belly button went off to the right side. So center front actually stayed completely off to the right side. So then when we drew the croquis, we had the same thing. From her throat down to her shoe, the plumb line was over here. The belly button here off to the right, bottom of the swimsuit off to the right. So the difference on the walking pose is the bottom of the swimsuit will still come back to the opposite side of the plumb line. Let's analyze the bodice area for model A. Now take your ruler and your light pencil, and what we're going to do is we want to find basically where's the high points here on her shoulders. And then as you bring the ruler up here, you'll notice her shoulders are popping to her left side. But I don't want to draw a line until I'm also square with that center front. So I'm getting my ruler square with center front. I'm seeing what the shoulders are doing. And now I can lightly draw in my line here for what her shoulder angle is doing. Let's come down here to about where the bottom of her armpits are. So just lightly put a dot, guessing where you think those locations are. And then again, we want to have our ruler square with her center front and parallel with that shoulder that we just put in there. And then come down here and put a guideline for the bottom of her armpits. Then let's do one more guideline, which would be the apex on her bust. So come down just guessing. If you need to, you can draw in the top of the swimsuit here and the sides, and then taking a guess of where you think the apex on her bust is. We'll come down and we'll draw a guideline for that apex. Again, we're square with center front and we're parallel with the shoulders and the armpits. The last one we want is the bottom of the rib cage. Now over here, it's a little bit confusing. I put in some dark lines on here so you can see there's some cutouts on her one-piece swimsuit. And this cutout here from her right side is pretty consistent with the bottom of the rib cage. So let's start with that location. Bring your ruler down here, square with center front, parallel with the shoulders, and let's get this. So the top of that cutout right there, this will be her rib cage. So come back and just double check that you have the shoulders, the armpits, bust level, and bottom of the rib cage. Now, since the angle is heading upwards towards her left side, then these shoulders are popping to the left. So let's put a light arrow here and write the word pop. Now let's analyze model B. So remember, this girl, her weight is on her left foot. And so now her shoulders are going to pop in the opposite direction, towards her right side. So come in here and find the high point on this shoulder. The other shoulder, you can't really see it because her hair is in the way. What we'll do is we'll bring our ruler up square with center front. Get the high point of that shoulder. And now we can draw the direction her shoulders are traveling. And again, this is going to be here, popping to her right side. Come down here where you think her armpits would be. Let's get a guideline for that. Square with center front, parallel with the shoulders. And then draw in her swimsuit top. And take your best guess on where you think her bust apex would be. We'll draw a guideline for that as well. Same thing on this girl. We can come over here to where her waist is crunching, and over here where her waist is extending. And just try and get your best guess on where you think down in here, where would be that bottom of her rib cage. Again, all of these, the shoulder, armpits, bust level, bottom of the rib cage, should all be totally parallel with each other, square with the new center front, and popping to her right side. Now come back into this area where we think her armpits are. If it helps, go ahead and draw the side of her body up to this armpit level. And what I want to do is, I want to draw a line going straight down here at the width of her armpits, making sure that I am parallel with center front and square with the shoulder and rib cage. And the same thing on this side. Now take out your red color pencil, and what we're going to do is double check that you like those lines that you put in there. They're totally squared up, and let's make those red. And then let's do red here at the shoulders, connecting this so it's a red square. And do the same thing down here at the waist. And then let's shade this in with some red. Now let's come over to model A, and we'll do the same thing. Double check that it looks like a square and there's right angles on all four corners. Now when we look back at model A and model B, we can see that her shoulders, rib cage, bust level line is all popping to the left side, and then model B, it's popping to the right side. This whole upper bodice area is locked together. So as she walks, you would see these squares moving back and forth. Now let's come down here and we'll analyze what's happening for the lower body. Using your light pencil, here on model A, let's trace off a little more of her swimsuit. So this is her hips coming up, and here I've already put in there where you can see the cutout from her one piece. So we can get a sense of what the hips are doing. So come out here to the edge of the swimsuit and make a dot right here, as well as a dot right here. And then move up here to the bottoms of the cutouts. Put a dot right here and another one here. And then taking out your ruler, what we're going to do is we're going to connect these dots, but we're also going to stay square with the new center front. So if one dot is a little lower and the other one is a little higher, that's okay. Just be really diligent to stay square with center front. And then come up here, this is basically going to be the tops of her hip bones. And let's get a guideline for this as well. making sure you're square with center front and parallel now with that new guideline. And here we can see it's popping off to her right side. So put an arrow on there and write the word pop. Let's also come down here to the bottom of the swimsuit, and if you'll notice, the bottom of her swimsuit is also at an angle, and it's the same angle from here. Now let's come over and analyze model B. And what we can do in this instance is we can take the top edge of the swimsuit here and here, and then we can connect those, but also making sure, again, that we're square with center front. So you might notice one dot is a little higher, one's a little lower, and that's okay. The most important thing is we're staying square with center front. Let's come down here what we think would be the full hip. So somewhere down in this area. And then we'll get another one for down here at the bottom of her swimsuit. Again, all of these should be parallel and they're perfectly square with the new center front. Let's come up here to where we think would be basically the tops of her hip bones. On this side, I can see where her hip bone is in real life. And this model has a very long waistline. But if we come over here, we can see the top of the hip bone is a lot higher. So let's go ahead and use this location. So come on up here, and again, this should also be going through the center of her belly button. So middle of the belly button, this will be top of the hip bones, square with center front. Put an arrowhead on there and write pop. So this is popping now to her left side. Now take a minute to go back and just double check yours. So model A, this is popping to her right side at the top of her hip bones, the full hip, the bottom of the swimsuit. And then model B, it's doing the opposite. So here again, top of the hip bones. Here we have somewhere around her full hip area. And then this would be bottom of the swimsuit. It's all popping to her left side. We want to come down and get the same thing here at the knees. So following along model A, come over here to her right leg. This is the leg that has all her weight on it. And come in here and guess basically where is her kneecap. And then find the center of that kneecap. Now let's do the same thing for model B. So here on her left leg, this is the leg that her weight is on. Let's find the kneecap for this leg and the center of that kneecap. Now the walking foot, so this is the foot that's dropping down and going behind her as she walks. Find the kneecap for this, and if it's hard for you to see, you can get a sense of the leg is coming down. This is the calf muscle popping out. Here's the knee and the leg coming down. And you can get a sense of the kneecap is down here. Do the same thing for this model as well. Now, if you remember on the static pose, her knees were straight across from each other, and they were also parallel with the top of the hip bones and the full hip. When we moved into our standing pose, the knees were going at an angle, and these were also parallel with her full hip and top of hip bones. But when you move into the walking pose, she's moving so dramatically that if you were to connect these two kneecaps, the angle would be very strong and would not match the angles up in here. What we want to do is we want to take the center of the kneecap that has her weight on it. So from this model here and this model here, and we're going to draw a guideline that stays parallel with what's happening here at her waist. So with model A, I'm going to come down to the kneecap that has her weight on it. I'm going to make sure I'm square with center front, parallel with her hips, and I can get a guideline here. And you can see her knees are popping to the right, and the walking foot knee is even lower than that guideline. So go ahead and find the center of this kneecap and notice it's lower. Let's do the same thing for model B. Coming in here to model A, let's take this and we're going to block this out with blue. What I want you to do is the bottom of the swimsuit here, extend that all the way out, and then find the widest point on her hips. So somewhere around here, somewhere around here. And then what we'll do is we're going to square up a box from that widest point of the hip, staying parallel with center front, square with her hips. And we'll get a guideline right here. Just double check that it looks like a square and these are right angles. And then go ahead and let's darken this in blue. And then shade it in as well. And let's do the same thing here for model B. The bottom of her swimsuit, make this guideline longer. Then we come in here and find the widest part of her hips and square that with center front and do the same thing on both sides. Double check that you can see it is squared and there's right angles here, here, here. And then if everything looks correct, let's do this in blue. So from the bottom of the swimsuit to the top of the hip bones. Taking your darker pencil, let's come in here into the waist area. So on model A, the waist is going to go from here to here. And on the other side, it's from here to here. And you'll notice the side is very short. So bring an arrow out here and write the word crunch. Now for model B, it's going to do the opposite. So this is her extended side. This is her crunch side. Now let's just pretend that these two girls were made out of wood. So the blue area is one piece of wood, the red area is another, and they're totally locked. So as she walks and moves, everything from her shoulders to her rib cage has to stay locked together. And again, from the top of the hip bones to the bottom of the swimsuit, it has to stay together as well. Let's go ahead and put a large circle here to pretend that that's the swivel point where these two blocks can move. Moving down to where her knees are, the knees are also locked with this blue block. So come down here with your blue color pencil and let's get this guideline in blue. And then for the center of the leg, I want you to connect from the middle of the leg to the middle of the knee. Connect this with blue and do the same thing here. So the middle of the leg, middle of the knee. And these are all locked and blocked together. So the hips and the knees will move back and forth. So go ahead and do the same thing here for model A. Now something that's really important to know on the walking pose is the leg that is going behind. So this is the foot that's off of the ground and going behind her. This leg, the center of the bone, is also square with center front. So come in here and put an arrowhead like this and do the same thing at center front, and you'll notice that they both are going in the same direction. When we come over to model B, the opposite is happening. So this is the leg that is going back into space, and it is square also with center front. Now out here with your pencil, what I want you to do is I want you to connect this knee guideline back to her bottom of the swimsuit, making sure that you're square with center front and parallel with the knees. So you can see that the knees are locked with what's going on with the hips. Do the same thing for model A. So here you can see that the knees are doing the same thing that the hips are doing. And this walking foot is parallel with the center front. Okay, let's come down in here and analyze what's going on with the legs and feet for model A. Come all the way down to where you can see her toes. We're not worried about the shoe itself. We just want to know here in this dark area, where's the bottom of those toes. And then for the walking foot going back into space, you can also see the bottoms of the toes right here. Now coming up, we want to find her ankle. So here on her right foot, there's a strap from her shoe here, and in between that is this ankle. So we would have the top and bottom of the ankles right here. Over here, it's a little more tricky to see, but there's an ankle popping out right here. So again, it's below this upper strap from her shoe. Now using this plumb line, if it's hard for you to see it, go ahead and make it a little bit darker down here at the bottom. And again, make sure you're going all the way back up to her throat. So using this plumb line, what I want you to do is I want you to have top of the ankle for her left foot as well as the bottom square with the plumb line. And then come down here to the bottom of her toes. Not necessarily her shoes, just find her toes. And then for this side, let's go ahead and do the same thing. So we have top of the ankle, bottom of the ankle, and bottom of her toes. Now the distance from the bottom of her toes to the outside ankle, if you look at this with a ruler, you'll see that it's about 3/4 of an inch. When we come over to this one, we're noticing it's about 1.25 inches. So this foot is longer than this one. The reason is because this foot is going back into space and it's folding back, we're able to see more surface from her foot. To show that this foot is longer, what we'll do is we'll make a blue line with an arrowhead going from the foot to the outside ankle. And this will be longer. And then come over here with red, drawing a line plus your arrowheads. And over here we'll write shorter. Now officially this would be 3/4 of a head tall, and this is now longer than that, so this would be 1 full head. Let's come up here and analyze what's going on with her calves. So starting with the foot that she has her weight on, come over here and find where's basically the apex outside corner of this calf, and the inside one is lower. Now remember, what we would do is if the knees were 6.5, we would come down 7.5 heads, and we would do a guideline that was 45-degree angle. For the opposite side, you can see her calf is popping out way over here for the outside, and the inside calf is right here. So you'll notice that you cannot go down to 7.5 and do a 45 degree. What you would do is you would come down to 7 heads down and do a 45-degree angle. So again, this would be 7.5 heads down. This would be 7 heads down. Let's go ahead and make this top of the ankle guideline just a little bit longer. And what I want you to notice now is the calf area on her left side is going to be shorter, and the calf area on her right side is going to be much longer. So let's go ahead and get a line in here for the right side. So from the top of the ankle all the way up to that knee guideline, mark this in blue, put in your blue arrowheads, and label this longer. And then we'll do the opposite over here. So top of the ankle up to the knee guideline, and this will be shorter. So now you can see the opposites are happening. The foot's longer here, shorter there. The calf is longer here, and it's shorter there. You come down 7.5 heads to get this calf shaping, and you come down 7 heads to get this calf shaping. Let's do the same thing here for model B. Again, you want to find the bottom of her toes, not necessarily the bottom of the shoe. So bottom of her toes right here, and the bottom of her toes over here. For the ankles, you can see this one pretty clearly where that outside ankle is, the inside ankle. So now using this plumb line, making sure the plumb line is nice and dark, you can go ahead and square out top of the ankle, bottom of the ankle, and where her toes are inside of her shoe. And then coming over to this foot, here you can see her ankles. So go ahead and sharpen your 2 color pencils. So now we're going to do the opposite. So this foot here is the foot that has her weight on it, and this is a normal foot with her 3/4 of a head. And we know that this foot here is going to be longer. If you need to, you can measure. From here to here is shorter, from there to there is longer. So with your red color pencil, come over here. And this one's going to be shorter. And blue color pencil on this foot. And this one's going to be longer. Then continuing up, you can already see this one's shorter, this one's longer. So switch your color pencils, come over to this side. So top of the ankle up to the guideline for the knees. It's going to be red on this side and shorter. And it'll be blue on this side. and longer. And then with your number 2 pencil, we can come in here and analyze the calf muscles. So let's start here with the leg that has her weight on it. Come out to the calf and find the furthest point out for the outside of the calf and then the inside of the calf. And then you notice that it has a 45-degree angle there. And remember that this would be 6.5 heads down. That's 7.5 heads down. And then we analyze her walking foot. So here's the calf popping out here. The inside calf is down here. There's our guideline, and this would be about 7 heads down. One last thing that I want to analyze on her shoe is the shaping of the shoe between the 2 different feet. So over here she has a strap on her foot and it's slightly curving upwards. If you come over to this side, you can see the strap is slightly curving downwards. So what's happening with this foot here is if you come off to the side, if you draw an oval and her foot is curving upwards, so you would have this upper part here, you would draw that a second time, and then her foot is traveling through the band. On this side here, it's curving downwards. So come out over here. Again, let's draw an oval. And we're going to take the bottom curve of that and draw it a second time right here. So her foot is coming in and out of there. Now I know it's kind of hard to see what's happening on the top of her shoe, but basically the same thing is happening. So here it was curving upwards. The top of her shoe here would be curving upwards. And then this one's doing the opposite. It's curving downwards. And let's analyze the shoes here from Model A. So again, the foot that has her weight on it, the strap on her shoe here is curving upwards, and the shoe top right here is curving upwards. Basically, she's wearing like a sandaled shoe where you can see her toes sticking out. Then when we come over here, the strap is curving downwards, and the top of the shoe is curving downwards. So if we analyze this a little bit further, the foot that has your weight on it, that foot will be 3/4 of a head. But the foot going back into space is longer, so this will be 1 full head long. What this does is, this is going to compress her back leg, so the whole calf area is much shorter, as opposed to the normal standing leg, which is longer. Then when we have the calf muscle shaping, we come down to 7.5 to get the shaping here. And then we do the opposite here, and it's shorter. So it's 7 heads down, and a shorter, quicker curve. So basically the leg that has the weight on it, everything that you're going to do is the same as a normal croquis. The size of her foot, her calf, her legs, her knees, it's all the same shaping and rules. But the foot that's going back into space gets flopped. So the foot gets longer, the calf gets shorter. The calf shaping is higher up. The knee is coming down lower. And then if we come up to analyze the lower body, so all of her hips, hip bones, and knees are locked together. And then the walking foot will be parallel with center front. And then the opposite will happen for this girl here. Then you move up to the bodice area, so her upper body. And you have the shoulders, rib cage, the bust level line, her armpits are all locked together, doing the opposite of her hips. And the center front here is going to go from the plumb line, and her belly button goes towards her left side. The bottom of the swimsuit goes towards her right side. And the opposite for girl B. It's critical that you understand that these are locked together and everything that is going on with her legs moving and this leg going back into space and how to draw that correctly. A lot of times I'll see walking poses from some of my first semester students, and they'll accidentally have the shoulders and the hips going in the same direction, which would mean that if she lifted this foot off the floor, she would actually just tip over to her left side. So it's important that you're counterbalancing the shoulders dropping to the same side the hips are popping, and her waist is crunched here, and that's her support leg right there. So just double check yours, and I also highly recommend to print this out and do this exercise one more time on your own, just looking at what you've done so far, so you can really start to memorize all the different rules that go into the walking pose. Now that you've completed your homework, scan this page and submit it to me for your grade. And now we're going to move on to how to draw the walking pose.